New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm your host, Reverend Jim Webb. I'm the author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity, as well as many other books supporting that book. Other books supporting the Soul of Prosperity include Create Your Self-Manifesting Vision Board, Prosperity from A to Z, 30 P's for Prosperity, and Forgive Your Way to Prosperity. It's an honor to be here. For every Sunday evening, we discuss, of course, prosperity. But we discuss prosperity in a broad way, more than just money and stuff. We discuss spiritual prosperity, where you experience the peace that passes all understanding. We discuss you have a wonderful job with wonderful pay, where you create a wonderful service in a wonderful way. We look at relationship prosperity, where we look at how we can cause our relationships to be sources of love, support, and harmony that are outer reflections of our inner love, inner self-support, and self-harmony that we cultivate through a prosperity consciousness. We look at family prosperity and many other aspects of prosperity that you've probably thought about, including financial prosperity, the security where money is a source of joy and peace and no longer a source of worry, and other ways as well. So we look at what can support our prosperity, as well as what blockages to prosperity may exist and how we can remove them. So I'm excited about tonight's show. I hope you are too. And if you are, let us know that you're here by saying hello in the comments. And you're probably going to have questions, so be sure to put your questions in the comments section as well. I'm excited about tonight's show because tonight's show is called Esteem Your Way to Prosperity, where we will talk about self-esteem, its very vital role in our prosperity journey, and how we can recover lost self-esteem and maintain our self-esteem no matter what is going on in our outer world. Esteem your way to prosperity. And I'm so glad to invite back my spiritual sister, Catherine Duca. She just learned that she has been adopted, so I hope she's smiling.
Hello, brother. Hello, brother.
Hello, my sister. You know, I want to first of all express the prosperity of knowing you.
Oh.
I felt this afternoon, and I just need to express it because when you express love, it magnifies. Some of you may know that I just lost a loved one in the last couple of weeks. So I've been all open-hearted and weepy and stuff. But in that open-heartedness, that is simply the love of God being made manifest. I find that it is a joy to touch with like-minded individuals, fellow open hearts, and beautiful souls that I've known forever, even though we just met. And you're my latest spiritual sister, and I'm very happy about that. Hello, Catherine.
Hello, Jim. It is my honor, really.
It's so good to have you here. For those of you who may not remember her previous appearance on the show, Catherine Duca is a well-known self-esteem coach, an author, psychotherapist from my old stomping ground, Montclair, New Jersey. And she's a wonderful spiritual light as well. So we're glad to have you, Catherine.
Oh, so pleased to be here. This was the highlight of my week, knowing I was going to be with you.
Oh, good, good. The highlight of mine, too. So let's talk about self-esteem. I know that it's an integral part and an X factor of our prosperity journey, because without self-esteem, number one, it is unlikely that we will even have the wherewithal to pursue our heart's desires. And without self-esteem, we are vulnerable to the saboteurs that sabotage our heart's desires. But, I have a more basic question about self-esteem and prosperity.
What's that?
What is self-esteem?
What is self-esteem? What is self-esteem? Okay. Well, the long and the short of it is self-esteem is an expression of our relationship to and with ourselves. It's how we perceive ourselves. It's an honest evaluation, if you will, an honest knowing of our strengths, our limitations, our weaknesses, our flaws, our talents.
Mhm.
It's not over embellishing who we are, nor is it undervaluing who we are. It's an honest appraisal of how we think about ourselves. That's what self-esteem is. There are a few things that self-esteem is not.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Well, it is not ego.
Okay.
It is not flattery. It is not external validation. People think I'm wonderful. It is not, riding high on perfectionism. I'm a type A. I do things, exceedingly well. Therefore, I can enjoy good self-esteem. No, those wires are kind of crossed. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are in your own estimation.
So it's about self-awareness, an honest, objective, clear yet loving self-awareness. Would that be accurate?
Clear yet loving. Beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
Okay, that helps me understand. Now, why do you think it's so important on our prosperity journey, Catherine?
Well, I think self-esteem, having a healthy amount of self-esteem, if we can quantify it as an amount, I think underlies every path we take. Prosperity it being one. You mentioned in your introduction, Jim, you said something about a foundation for prosperity. You mentioned self-esteem. And, if you think about what a foundation is, when you think about a building and you think about a foundation, well, the foundation and the structures therein are going to support the building. Now, if we make an analogy between, a skyscraper versus one story, we can begin to imagine, well, if we want to play big, meaning if we want to open ourselves up to the magnificent flow of source energy, I call that playing big. We have to have the inner landscape. We have to have the foundational structure within self-esteem to support living in such a way, to support that consciousness.
Yes.
So that's why it's important on the prosperity journey.
Yes. And spiritual self-esteem, would you say that spiritual self-esteem is this view of ourselves, taking into account our eternal selves or our higher selves and its capabilities?
Absolutely, 100%, because as we all know, and everyone listening to this station no doubt knows, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I think the whole idea of living as the divine beings that we are is having and working toward having our earthly personality in alignment with our spiritual selves.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So when we look at it that way, then we have, I believe, an open channel,
Yes.
right? An open portal to attracting and maintaining prosperity.
Yes. And one of the things that you mentioned that I find fascinating is the idea that self-esteem is inner generated and inner maintained, not dependent on someone else's opinion or someone else's outer affirmation. Can you say a little more about that? Because I think that's an extremely important point.
Well, I've always pondered people in Hollywood, and when they win the Oscar and they get they get the role in the next big film, they're riding high, right?
Mhm.
But what
Yes.
happens when the work diminishes? Does their whole view of themselves also diminish? So,
Mhm.
so using that as another analogy, that if we depend on external validation too much, then if we get it, all is well, and if we
Mhm.
don't, all is very far from well. And
Yes.
so, if our self-esteem rises and falls on what other people say, it's very tenuous. It's not
Yeah.
really self-esteem, it's reactionary ego, I think.
Yes. Yes. Like that old saying, build your hopes on things eternal. Build your awareness of yourself, not on what others think or the fashion of the moment, because that always changes, but build your awareness of yourself on your inner self, your light self, your highest self, looking lovingly at your human self, knowing your strengths and your limitations, but knowing them with love, not with criticism, self condemnation, or them causing you doubt. I know that one of my areas for perpetual improvement is organization. So I surround myself with very organized people.
Smart, smart.
Yes. So, one of the other things I'd like to explore as we bore down into this idea of esteeming our way to prosperity is how do we begin to unconsciously shed our self esteem? And then, of course, what can we do to regain it or to
Mm,
embrace
mhm. Well, I think this is a bit of a layered concept.
it? Mhm.
I think it helps to, number one, have some kind of working definition, as we just mapped out, of what self-esteem is and isn't. And then you mentioned self-awareness, which is number one in any
Mhm.
any kind of personal growth,
Mhm.
is to look within and ask ourselves, with the lovingness and the tone, I like to say, of a kindergarten teacher,
Mhm.
not a drill sergeant, but
Yes.
an inviting, encouraging inquiry of, where did I where do I think I lost my self self-esteem? Where did I lose it along the way? You
Mhm.
know, when we talk about that foundation, I submit, this is backed up by everything written on self-esteem, and that is, we all come into the world, obviously, as newborn infants,
Yes.
right? And I would challenge anyone to find criticism or flaws in a newborn infant.
Mhm.
So if we accept that premise, that we enter the world now, a child of God, an expression of divinity, um, spiritually speaking, and then humanly speaking and
Mhm.
psychologically speaking, we're a little blank slate. We're
Yes.
we're a little bundle, 7, 8 pound bundle of
Bundle of joy.
a little joy, right? And
Mhm.
so that is the great equalizer. No matter who you are, no matter what your income level, no matter your status, no matter how many Oscars you do or you don't have,
Mhm.
we all came in that way. And then life shaped us, groomed us, talked us out of, conditioned us away from that knowing that
Mhm.
we're born pure perfection. So we need to turn inward and be willing to ask ourselves, where where might I have gone, you know, off
Astray from the concept of my divine perfection, my wholeness, and my deservingness.
exactly, exactly.
Yes. One of the things that I found is that when people do that, they might find several seminal experiences in their lives that were almost definitional of how their self esteem escaped them. Has that been your experience, Catherine?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Now, depending on how young one was when those experiences occurred, one might not have a conscious memory, but
Mm-hmm.
part of what we do in psychotherapy is we try to stimulate those memories,
Yes.
and I ask questions about to my clients, what do you remember when you, or I ask them to bring in a picture of themselves at an early age. I say, what was going on at home? What kind of child were you? What did you think about? And that kind of conversation and that kind of probing can bring about memories. Oh, I remember in the first grade this happened, and third, another grade that happened, and oh, that scalded me.
Yes.
And right,
And it taught them a script that was unlike the truth, where they perhaps felt less loved, less capable, or less deserving.
all of
So, so how do we, what are some ways that we can, now that we know some ways that we can go back and capture those pivotal points through meditation, through self-introspection, through therapy, etc.? What can we do to heal those wounded aspects of ourselves so that we can feel a more full sense of ourself and thus more self-esteem?
mm. Well, I believe in the concept, and I don't know if anyone else has used these words. I use them. I've come up with them. I believe
Mhm.
compassionate recognition,
Okay.
meaning when we look inward and we can identify an experience or experiences that may have hurt us and jolted us into believing something about ourselves
Mhm.
that is other than our spiritual, reality.
Yes.
Um, we need to compassionately recognize, oh, I can understand how that experience back then hurt me, and then
Mhm.
have compassion toward the self. Not,
Yes.
"Oh, get over it," not, "That was then," not, "You're so much older and, you live in a nice house, so what are you worried about?" No, have the compassion to say, "That little girl or boy, um, that person really experienced an ouch and
Yeah.
recoiled," and to have active compassion. So,
Yeah.
one very practical thing I ask my clients to do is keep that little, uh, picture of themselves as a child, keep
Yes.
keep it somewhere prominent, and
Mhm.
call that child to mind and have conversations with that child,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
remind
And
the child how sweet he or she or they are.
yes, absolutely. And interestingly enough, when we are doing that with our child, when we are, as John Bradshaw might say, reclaiming, healing, and transforming our inner child. The part of us that is the sentient adult connected with light, that feels the power of light always, is actually channeling healing light to that child, offering it the soothing energy that it has yearned to experience, offering it the embrace that it has yearned to experience. And that can be profoundly healing, causing us to feel more deserving of our good.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, what I tried to do as a psychotherapist, and I'm sure you do this in your work, is I align with the adult I'm speaking with, and
Yes.
together we attempt to reparent, if you will, that child.
Yes.
Now, of course, we can never turn the clock back, but what we can do is say, you and I together, you adult and me together, we know and we understand how that little person felt back then. We
Yes.
understand. So we say to him or her, we say, we've got you. We've got you now. And you're
Yes.
beautiful, sweetheart.
Absolutely. Sometimes I call those wounded aspects of ourselves the mistaken ones, for they were mistaken when they thought they weren't enough. They were mistaken when they thought they weren't beautiful. They were mistaken when they thought they were abandoned and thus devalued. They were mistaken when they thought there was something wrong with them for the way they were born, or what they were feeling at any time, or what they experienced. Sometimes I call them the mistaken ones. And on my YouTube channel, I have this meditation called Healing the Mistaken Ones, which helps us to identify and heal those aspects of our consciousness that were mistaken. And in their mistakenness, may be lacking the self-esteem necessary to feel deserving of God's good. Healing the mistaken ones. If you if one of your clients had a mistaken one, what would you say to them, Catherine?
Well, number one, I mean, even as you asked me the question, I feel something in my heart that opens up with empathy.
Yes.
And I convey my honest empathy for how difficult, how lonely that must have been. And then I ask them to ponder who gave them that message. And then I ask them to wonder whether whomever gave that message was a perfect person, or whether they were a flawed human being like everyone. Because
and whether that message was reflective of their misinformation or miseducation.
Well, that's right, because so many of my clients who grapple with lowish self-esteem inherently believe that they were the mistake. They did something wrong. They let other people down by virtue of being a mistake. And I asked them to at least entertain the idea that maybe it was the caregivers and society at large who were mistaken and had misguided ideas and were themselves. And I asked them to also consider maybe they were never a mistake, and it was their caregivers who just couldn't recognize that.
Yes.
And so who let whom down, really? And it's not about blame. It's not about dropping the blame and then, feeling vindicated. It's about cause and effect.
Yes.
Oh, I see where I got that idea from. I see.
I got a flawed idea from a flawed person in a flawed world, and that doesn't make me flawed.
That's it. That's it. That's it. But that requires, that's not a one and done. That's not a one conversation. That's a deep pondering.
Yes.
And I think what your work offers people is the framework and the and the gentleness and the safety within which to ask that question.
Yes. And when we heal, support, recognize, and embrace the mistaken ones, their mistaken lack of self-esteem can disappear, can be healed, can be addressed. So we're going to talk more about this after the break. But for now, we're going to go to break, and we'll be back. And in the meantime, folks at home, ask your questions here on the Miracle of Prosperity.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
And we're back here on the Miracle of Prosperity. And I'm here with self-esteem coach, Catherine Duca. And we are working with esteeming your way to prosperity. How self-esteem and building our self-esteem and reclaiming our self-esteem is an important building block to the prosperity that we deserve and desire. So what we've been talking about in the first segment are all the ways that we may have lost aspects of our self-esteem, where it may have seeped out due to miseducation, misunderstandings, or flawed teachings in a flawed world. And now we have some questions from our audience. So the first one comes from R. Isabella B. And the question is, can you give an example of helping another understand the concept of self-love to avoid a possible wrong impression of their thinking that you are implying that they don't love themselves?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would that be to me, that question, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. Give an example of helping another understand the concept of self-love to avoid a possible wrong impression of their thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, gosh, so many examples come to mind, but one in particular, I mentioned it on my show not that long ago. A friend of mine, right now, she is very successful in business, very what you might call, and she would call of herself, type A personality.
Mhm.
But she knows that she struggles with self-esteem. Okay. Uh, so an example, when she was a young girl, elementary school age, she made dinner for her family and happened to be of Italian descent, and she made a lasagna, and she was
Mm.
very proud. Well, that's a big deal to make a lasagna. That's a hard dish for a little girl, 8, 9 years
Yes.
old. She made the lasagna. She put it on the table. Her dad, cut a big piece, and
Mhm.
in a very annoyed fashion, he kind of, dropped his utensil and he pushed the thing away and he said, "You put too much damn salt in the lasagna. I'm not eating it. Don't you know better?"
Mhm. Wow.
And yeah. And whether it sounds like a little thing or not, it was not a little thing in her development, her psyche, because she vowed never to make a mistake again.
Wow.
Never to make a mistake again. And she felt that she was kind of a bad daughter, not dutiful, couldn't
Mhm.
please her father. Now, her father was the type of man, as I came to know of him, a very difficult man to please.
Mhm.
But she tried her utmost to the tune of twisting herself into that emotional pretzel to
Mhm.
be everything she thought he wanted from a daughter. And this became
Mhm.
part of her personality.
Mhm.
So, so an example of how to help someone with this concept, well, I would talk to her and say, imagine if you were watching this scenario on Netflix. And imagine you saw the thing with the lasagna and the angry dad. Freeze frame it. How do you feel about what's going on here, what you're witnessing? And how do you feel toward that little girl?
Mm.
Let's take a minute. How do you feel toward her? Well, I feel sad for her. I feel upset for her. Uh, she didn't deserve that. Bingo. Right
Mm.
there. Right there is where we can uncouple, if you will, disentangle ourselves from the belief that we are the mistaken one.
Mhm.
And in that pulling apart, we can have much more objectivity for ourselves. And my client will invariably say, although this happened to be a friend, but the person will likely say, ah, she didn't deserve that, which is to say, I didn't deserve that growing up. What I did deserve instead was my dad being happy for my effort.
Yes.
And right there, the perception of one as a mistake starts
Mhm.
to shift
Mhm.
because you're claiming and understanding, beginning, and then more and more of what you did deserve back then.
Okay.
And that
That
just
helps us to understand.
it places the psyche on a different track.
Yes. And it helps understand how I think implied in that question was also the idea that when we talk about self love, the person who has been wounded feels like they're being blamed yet again. Oh, you didn't love yourself enough. And what you just did is you reframed self love into something different than that accusatory sounding phrase. You reframed it into clear, loving compassion for self.
Like the kindergarten teacher.
Yes, instead of the high school football coach.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes,
That's right.
absolutely.
I love
Okay,
that question. Thank you, R. Isabella. Thank you.
that was an absolutely wonderful question. So, what kind of exercises, Catherine, can we do to build and maintain our self-esteem now that we know how we perhaps have lost it, how it may have seeped out of our consciousness? What can we do to maintain it, build it, or preserve it?
Well, I think everyone would do well to get themselves a picture of themselves at a young age, as I said. And if you don't have access to such a photograph, to conjure up in your mind how you looked as a youngster. And
Yes.
use journaling. Journaling
Yes.
is such a powerful exercise, as you well know, and dialogue with that child as the adult in that child's life today. Don't ask questions like, why did, it's not about questions. It's about conveying to that child your love, your acceptance, your willingness to know everything that child thinks and feels. And as you have that, it's called interactive imaging, actually.
Mhm.
And as you do that, if you're journaling, and the best way to journal is with a pen or a pencil rather than on your notes,
Mhm.
that's the only way you can do it. Go ahead and do it. But I vote for handwriting.
Yes.
You are actively creating a relationship with that part of you.
Mm.
And what
Wow.
will happen over time, and it cannot miss, over time, there is an integration that takes
Mm.
place, right? Where you merge with that little being, and you've got
Mhm.
that little being. And anyone who tries to hurt that little being heretofore has to get past you,
Yes.
the bodyguard, if you will.
Yes. Wow. That is wonderful. And a thought just came to me. I wonder what would happen if you would do a vision board of your inner child with the pictures, images of your child in the middle, the symbol of God's light, whatever that is for you on top, whether it be Kuan Yin, whether it be an ocean, whether it be Jesus, whether it be an ankh or a cross, with the I love myself, or the beautiful inner child I am. Then these pictures, for example, pictures of yourself in the first, second, third, fourth grade or whatever. And then on the side, some sort of idea of healing. The love of God I now receive causes me to love myself. Then on the other side, I am the beloved child of God, whole, holy, complete, and fully deserving. And then on the bottom, perhaps, thank you, God, for causing me to love myself objectively. Thank you, God, for causing me to love myself the way you love me. Thank you, God, for causing me to see myself the way you see me. And I wonder if framing the pictures of the inner child with that energetic and using that as a vision board could be a useful way to uh, supply and apply healing energy to that inner child that needs to have their self-esteem built. What do you think, Catherine?
Sign me up. Sign me up right now. That would revolutionize the vision board, arm of personal growth. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And may we all aspire to that, and a wonderful exercise. The only thing I would add to that is,
Mm-hmm.
if you're with someone, you're talking to someone, or you're someone listening, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going along with that, and you want to connect with that, but you notice you have a yes, but.
Yes.
Yes, but the lasagna. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but she called me a bad girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I hated my little brother. That's my
Mm-hmm.
secret. I hated my little brother. And if anybody, I deserve to be punished for that.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere you have a yeah, but, that's where you bring the compassion right to that spot. And
Mm.
you again talk to that child and you say, but you are a child of God, always and forever. In spite of and because of everything, you are a child of God.
Yes.
And
Beautiful.
keep working that and working that.
Yes. So if that were the left side of the vision board, it would include the hesitation, the doubt, the fear, the yes, but. And then what is the truth that can overcome the yes, but? What is the truth that can counteract the yes, but? What is the truth that can help us see the yes, but differently? Yes, I hated my brother, because my little brother, because I was hurting. But the light of God I now receive heals my heart and that hatred no longer needs to exist, and I no longer need to feel guilty of it, or something like that.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now we can call that forgiveness of the self,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Letting ourselves, letting our 8-year-old self off the hook because
yes,
we were hurting and our brains weren't developed we couldn't journal, we couldn't go out for a ride and clear our heads. We just had to kind of take it and
yes,
just help ourselves feel better in that moment. And,
yes,
as egocentric little human beings, that's what children do. It must
yes.
be,
That's all we knew.
that's what we
That's
do.
all we knew. Yes, we didn't know how to express it. We didn't know the family dynamics behind it. We didn't know that we were mad because they were getting love that we used to get as the younger sibling. We didn't know any of that. We just knew that we were hurting.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that can be a way to manage our self-esteem as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I want for us to focus a few moments on how balanced, loving, objective self-esteem can cause us to allow the prosperity that we deserve and we desire. And it sounds like you just answered the question when you said balanced, loving self-esteem will address the yes buts that keep us from our prosperity. Is that accurate?
It is. It is. We speak all the time, those of us in self-improvement, self-growth, we speak all the time of loving ourselves, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
I just lost my train of thought. That's what happened there. I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, I did that last Sunday. It happens.
I think because I had three thoughts at once.
Yes.
Let me see where I was going. I don't think I can get it back.
All right. You know what? You are just mirroring me because I did that last Sunday around the same time.
Around the same time, it's gonna come to me the minute we're off the show. And
well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to break, and you're going to put pen to paper and write down the first thing that comes to mind, and your thoughts will come back. And then we'll be back here on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
And we're back here on The Miracle of Prosperity with self-esteem coach Catherine Duca. We've been discussing esteeming your way to prosperity, how building and maintaining loving, objective, clear self-esteem not the false self-esteem of the false ego, but a clear, loving, objective view of ourselves. And maintaining that can help us to stay in a prosperity consciousness and allow the good God wills for us. So, Catherine, do you have any final thoughts on esteeming your way to prosperity?
Well, I do, because I followed your instructions and I wrote down the very first thing, and that jarred my memory, and my amnesia has lifted. Open the flow. Open, because your question was, how does a healthy dose of self-esteem impact prosperity? And the yeah buts are prosperity blockers, intimacy blockers, happiness blockers, because we're arguing for our limitation. We're arguing for the mistake that we think we are deep down, right? But so this conversation has been about how to kind of go back and try to get underneath that and pull that apart a bit. Because if we feel like a mistake, mistakes don't deserve very much, do they?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So if we view ourselves as a mistake, no matter how much we strive and try, we're not going to allow ourselves to receive, to attract and to receive and to maintain prosperity and abundance. So when we can work through our esteem blockers and claim our rightful esteem, we almost don't have to do anything else. The spigot is open. Flow will come. Prosperity, money, health, relationships, opportunities will flow to us and through us. And then we can go about not only enjoying that, but sharing it with others. Sharing our consciousness, sharing our money, sharing our resources, sharing our happiness to uplift our brothers and sisters on this planet.
How beautifully said, Catherine. And I am just so glad that you were here to help us tonight to esteem our way to prosperity. So what are you working on these days?
Well, I'll tell you, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be starting my own episode. So if you're with us here, I invite you to stick with me and listen to my show at 9 o'clock. It's called Who Do You Think You Are? It's a podcast to help you claim your well-being, come from a place of self-respect and self-love, and make yourself a priority in your own life and open the flow to life's goodness. So I'll be on at 9 o'clock. And if you're interested in some of the things that I've said on my end tonight and want to know more about it, you can get a copy of my book. I would love it if you would. It's called Unmasked. Discover the hidden powers of your true self. You can get it anywhere books are sold, and of course on Amazon. So that's
Unmasked. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And
What about you, Jim? What about you? Before we go, what are you doing? What are you up to?
I forgot about me. Well, today I was talking with a group of Americans about building your self-manifesting vision board. These were people who have a traditional Christian background, but they were fascinated with the energy and the ideas of building your self-manifesting vision board. And these were Chinese Americans because we're entering the Chinese New Year next week, and that's why they asked me to come. And it was wonderful. But I realized every day can be New Year's as we create a new vision for ourselves. So I'd like to invite everyone to check out my book, Creating Your Self-Manifesting Vision Board. If you've not created a vision for this year yet, it's not too late. There is still time. Check out the book. It can help you. And of course, I'm doing my counseling, my coaching, and my teaching of my existing classes, which you can actually audit still. So that's what I'm up to. Wonderful. But I want to thank you, Catherine, for being here tonight. I know you've got to go get ready for your show. I'm going to be watching, and I appreciate you being here tonight on the Miracle of Prosperity. Good night, everyone.
Good night.